Today, I want to talk about how I got to where I am now, where I'm making YouTube videos. Like, why am I not working a regular job? In 2026, a regular job is really subjective. Guys have YouTube channels and other non-traditional forms of work, and some of those guys make way more money than people who traditionally work. And often I see people want to be like content creators. Like, if you ask a kid nowadays, I think one of the biggest answers, instead of an astronaut or a fireman or a police officer, they say YouTuber. But I also see a lot of people say to YouTubers or content creators, why don't you get a real job? And I got to tell you, man, this is one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. It's not easy by any means, and in no way am I complaining. I love it. I would like the chance to be able to make content and not have to worry about paying my bills. It would just make it a lot more easy, and I could probably focus on the actual content of the matter instead of being stressed. But that's really for a different video. For this video, I want to talk about how I got to where I'm at. So I've told y'all before, I had a daughter that passed away after I got clean and got my life on track. And I moved down here to Memphis. I bought a house. I married my wife. I went through rehab. I went back to school. I went to school to be a drug counselor. And about halfway through, I realized that it wouldn't be a good job for me. Like, I just didn't feel like I could give people what they needed without getting frustrated and not doing well by them. So I thought maybe a better way would be to share my story, with whoever I meet or whatever, and just try to affect people that way. I got married. I was working as a supervisor somewhere. My wife was working at the same company as an inventory person. She left before I did there and was working at GM, making pretty good money. And then they downsized or laid some people off, or I'm not really sure what happened, but she ended up working at Amazon and did pretty good. She got through the initial stuff and had been there for a while. And I had finally left right around COVID and started a landscaping business. And I didn't like it, man. It paid okay, but it's a big investment. I think one of the reasons you see a lot of landscaping businesses not work out is two reasons. One, and I had both the problems. One was employees, just finding people to work. It was damn near impossible by 2020 for me to find anybody that would work. The people I did find that would work would try to boss me. They would wait till we got to job sites and start talking on the phone, or they just did a bad job. Or if I happened to get somebody who did a good job, they had so much personal baggage, that it was a circus. I had one guy that did pretty good, but he didn't have anywhere to live. His girlfriend was constantly putting him in jail. She was calling, showing up, doing all kinds of stuff. It was just nuts. And it was just wild. But I never could find anybody to work, and it was a major amount of investment. I think by the time I had the lawnmowers and the trailer and the truck and everything, it was probably $30,000-$40,000 in, and I was limited the amount of money I could make because I didn't have any employees, so it was just me. I think I could do like maybe 6 to 8 yards a day, and there's just a lot of problems I'm going to get into about why I probably wouldn't do that again. Commercial landscaping, I think, may be a better deal. But anyway, I was doing that, and my knee started to give out on me, and I had already kind of decided I wanted to try to do something else. I had to have knee surgery, so that put me down. And I was talking to my wife about what I wanted to do, and she's like, well, what if you could do anything and nothing else mattered, money didn't matter, training didn't matter, anything, what would you do? And I said, man, I would like to be a talk show host. And I don't think she knew that I had any aspirations to be on TV or anything like that. But my whole life, people have said to me, man, you should be on TV, or you should be on the radio, or you should be in some kind of entertainment. When I was younger, I did some modeling, and I was a radio DJ in college. And these were things that I always kind of regretted not pursuing as a younger guy. So I definitely thought about it. I had been watching a lot of YouTube and realizing that people were actually making money on there, which is something I didn't even know until around 2020 that people made money on YouTube. But she told me to go for it, man. And I love her to death for that. You know, she supported me. And I don't know, you know, I'm sure there's other women who do that kind of stuff, but I had never been with anybody like that. That you know, she just told me to go pursue my dreams. And I was like, well, how are we gonna pay our bills? She's like, we will figure it out. And we have. You know, I can't say that every day's been great or things haven't been tough. And, you know, we've had some months where we didn't know how we were going to pay the mortgage, but we did it somehow, you know. And things today are a lot better than they were a couple of years ago when we started. But things got rough. You know, she lost her job at Amazon, and we really didn't know what we were going to do then. But we figured it out somehow. You know, we've always been able to be blessed, and it's amazing. But once my knee went bad, and then, you know, we had a baby, it just made more sense for me to stay home. So I don't really have the option. I'm still watching my daughter all day long, and my wife's still working, and my other daughter passed away after that, which sent me into this huge depression. But we, you know, I don't really have the option. I can't just go out and get a job unless it would have to be at night or something. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be out at night. I don't want to be away from my family like that. And right now things are, you know, we're all happy with the way things are, even though we'd like for this to pay a salary. And I've had some months where it did well. You know, I was able to live off of it. It was a real blessing. I've had some months, like this month is going to be a real tough one. So I decided to take this month. I didn't really just decide to, but I did, to take a slowdown on the other channel and kind of figure out where I'm doing wrong and why, you know, the videos aren't getting the views they were and stuff like that. And today I just did a lot of research and stuff into that, and I came to one conclusion, that it's me, that I'm not treating that over there like a job. I need to be in there just like I would working for somebody else at 8 or 9 in the morning. I need to have specific things I do each day that result in me being able to put out content at least a couple of times a week, the same time every week, and being a lot more dependable. Right now I'm just kind of doing it as I feel like it. I feel like I'm waking up in the morning and I'm getting overwhelmed with all the things I have to do. The studio started flooding not too long ago, and every time it rains now it floods. I've got to put in some drainage and stuff over there, and you know, it's a little bit more expensive than I can afford right now. So, you know, I start thinking about that. I start thinking about the air conditioner in there, about drywall, about some of the remodels that I've done, or remodeling I started doing that I didn't finish when my daughter passed away because I got depressed. And I start thinking about all that stuff, and it just comes right back. The depression just comes back, and you know, I may end up sitting there all day without getting anything done because it all seems like so much. It just seems so overwhelming. And I realized that if I was working for somebody else, hey, how's it going? If I was working for somebody else, I would get there at a certain time and I would develop a process for how to do this work. That was one of the things I did when I was working, is I would, at the company I was at, I would figure out what things weren't working, what things were, and try to streamline things so we were getting way more work done without a lot of bullshit, you know, without a lot of extra. I'd try to get where one person could do two people's jobs, but not by doing more work, by doing smarter work. And it's like, why aren't you doing that here, Jeff? And I don't really have an answer other than, you know, I just haven't treated it like I would somebody else's. And that's insane because I have way more opportunities here than I ever would with somebody else's job, like at somebody else's company. So I came up with a schedule, And I'm gonna start Monday morning, showing up at 8:30 and going through a certain procedure and making content that way. And I feel like it's gonna be a lot better. I know for some people, they just wanna make it as they feel like they should, and they want it to be fun and everything else. But this was always supposed to be an investment. It was always supposed to be a job. And for it to keep on, I have to be able to make a certain amount. I'm not trying to be rich. I'm just trying to make a certain amount to be able to keep it up. You have to make enough to be able to pay your bills, so you don't have to worry about keeping on going. And that's what I haven't been doing. So I'm gonna work a lot this week on getting that down, on figuring out what it takes for me to make a video. And a lot of what I've been doing is not wanting to be on camera until I feel like being on camera. And that's something I don't have the luxury of doing anymore. I need to get on the camera no matter what. If I feel bad, don't feel like doing it, have a bad attitude, whatever the reason is, I need to get on the camera and start, just producing videos. I have a lot of great ideas. A lot of times people, I think they connect with a lot of the bigger creators because they know they're gonna be back. They know that this guy, he's not only gonna make content, but he's gonna be back again on this day, or he's gonna be back tomorrow, or whatever. He's dependable. And you don't just see him when things are all great. And that's something I gotta remember too, that we're all real people. And I'm sure you guys know, just like I know, that every day ain't Christmas. Every day can't be perfect. Every day I can't be in a perfect mood. But I should trust you guys to look at me and still be okay with that, and still know that you guys got my back, even when I don't feel perfect, or when I am depressed or things ain't right, and know that I'm still showing up. You guys are still going to show up, and we're gonna do this. So that's all I got today, man. I'm back at the house, and I recorded a whole show, but I tossed it because it wasn't what I wanted to talk about, man. See y'all tomorrow. Peace.